The opening words for today that we have to ground us in this day of flower communion are these. Flowers chant their wordless songs of color and scent, delighting like a joyful choir at dawn. I breathe in with my whole body, feeling how it is we grow quietly, rising together among spring's green and dew. The rhythm of seasons rolls ahead, and I, a shy blossom, voice my small prism of song. I am singing of the wonder of how roots so love the buds. They bid them grow unseen as they are, while the buds never look back. And have us stay where we are today for our time of Wonder Box. You heard a second ago that we're keeping our flowers with us. Usually, as soon as you get in, we sort of just take them off your hands like childcare, just take them. But today we're keeping them with you because the story we're telling about Norbert Capek is about that two-part ritual of bringing a flower that is close to your heart, that is a reflection of the beauty that you found in it, and placing it into a common bowl or bowls, a common vase or vases. We do that first part of the ritual because then later, as we'll see, there's a second part where we receive one that we didn't come with, and we'll hear more about why that is. But if we don't do the first part, that freely chosen act of assembly, then the second part doesn't have as much power. So in a moment, we're going to have some music, and I invite you to come forward and place your flowers in one of the vases. And as you do so, see it as an offering to one another, to this community of beauty and diversity. Let us begin. I cannot imagine a more beautiful bouquet that we all collectively created. How many of you are professional florists? None of you. And yet look at this. We grab all your flowers, we put them in some random things. No way would it look as beautiful as this, each with your hand in the making. We can consecrate these flowers with these words from Norbert Capek. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessings on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship. But may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us, are indeed needed to do thy work in this world. Imagine the courageous people of a war-weary nation finally free to reclaim and renew their spirituality and culture after the war to end all wars. Imagine their hunger for soul-filling music and a message of unity that reaches across all lines of difference. Imagine their longing for a community where their gifts and needs would be embraced. 100 years ago, 101 years ago, the congregation of liberal religious fellowship in Prague, Czechoslovakia, was the community of their dreams. The Prague Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship was founded by the Reverend Dr. Norbert Capek and his wife, Maya Dr. Capek. A brilliant writer and preacher, avid singer, and eager student, was born into his mother's Catholic faith in Bohemia and grew up in a home flavored by his father's history within the Moravian Brethren. Norbert Capek grew up thirsting for a faith free from hypocrisy, a faith that would respect his mind and help him give voice to his convictions. As an adult, Capek served Moravian and Baptist religious organizations, growing more religiously liberal with each passing year. He left Bohemia under government threat and accepted a call to serve a Baptist church in New York City until one day in 1919. That day, he wrote in his diary, quote, "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning inside me," end quote. In 1921, inspired and empowered by connections he made with the American Unitarians, Dr. Capek and Maya returned with their children to their native land to build this new religious movement they dreamed of. That religious movement caught fire in a nation alive with freedom and longing for liberty and brotherhood and sisterhood and personhood. He asked, he asked each congregation to engage with him a new experiment of symbolizing their liberty. The Prague congregation had liberating messages and vibrant music, and it drew thousands in worship. But on one Sunday, he asked each congregation member to bring a flower to church from their garden, their field, or roadside, gathered in one vase. Their combined beauty was dazzling. Yet each blossom retained its uniqueness. And then, as Capek wrote, when they go home, each person is to take one flower just as it comes, without making any distinction where it came from and whom it represents, to confess that we accept each other without regard to class, race, or other distinction, acknowledging everybody as our friend, end quote. This compelling ritual of individual free will and the beauty of diversity and the power of unity was held for the first time on the anniversary of the Prague Fellowship's founding, June 24th, 1923. It became known as the flower ceremony or flower communion, and the Prague Fellowship celebrated it annually as they continued to grow and thrive. But all was not peaceful in Czechoslovakia. World War II brought great troubles, and in 1939, Maya Capek came to the United States to raise funds to help war refugees. She brought the flower ceremony, flower communion, with her to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And soon, the tradition spread to congregations across the country. Norbert Capek stayed behind in Czechoslovakia to help his people. He nurtured their spirits with his message of their inherent worth. But the Nazis found this message dangerous and arrested him for treason in 1941. He was sent to Dresden prison and then to the concentration camp at Dachau. Capek kept his spirits strong by sharing his poetry, his music, and the flower ceremony with other inmates. But the Nazis put him to death a year later. This year, we honor the 101st anniversary of the Flower Communion with music composed to celebrate the blessings of diversity, the beauty of freedom and dignity, and the power and strength of the religious movement founded by Norbert and Maya Capek, a movement that continues to thrive today. A great many Unitarian Universalist congregations celebrate the Flower Communion each spring. We love the way it brings Earth's colorful beauty into our midst, and it reminds us of the power of working together despite all the forces that conspire to divide us. We love to observe each other's faces as we choose a flower, especially the faces of children. We remember that just as each flower is unique, so is each person's life. It is unique and worthy. Together, the flowers form a bouquet that would not be as beautiful if even one flower were left out. We know that's how it is with our community too. Each and every one of us is part of our community and our community's beauty and purpose. Each and every one of us is valued and respected. In addition, the flower ceremony or flower communion reminds us that we can and we must work to shift our world toward greater peace, equity, sustainability, and justice. That we can and we must liberate others. Our first song, You Bring an Aster, is a hymn that brings to life the messages and meanings of the flower communion with a simple, upbeat melody. Unitarian Universalism is a living faith tradition meant to grow and change with the wisdom and knowledge of the times and with the life experiences of our congregants and our congregation's members. We come to this faith from many places, some of us without formal religious training, some of us after years spent with other religious paths and practices. Norbert Capek brought a rich life of religious scholarship and service to the Unitarianism of his time. In our next song, Capek's Journey, we hear his heartfelt search for a faith of integrity that could also serve the needs of his people. Listen for the compelling refrain, "Something didn't feel right in my head or in my heart. I knew that reason and love are the only place to start." Music was a joy and a lifeline for Norbert Capek. The texts of 7 hymns he wrote while incarcerated in Dresden prison are preserved in the book Norbert Fabian Capek, A Spiritual Journey, written by Richard Henry. Henry notes that in Capek's hymns, we sense his premonition of his fate. Yet they are full of hope and beauty nonetheless. In the depths of my soul adapts one of Capek's hymns and sets it to a meditative chant-like melody. The words remind us that in difficult times, solace is waiting deep within us. The words and melody of hymn number 8 in our hymnal, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, in the UU hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, were written by Norbert Capek, translated into English and adapted into the familiar song with its questions and images of earth's beauty. Capek's hymns tell us that he felt the spirit of life and love with him always. And in this new song, a voice of the Spirit answers each question, journeying with Capek and with all of us. Because the spirit of life and love is expansive, not limited by gender, the language has been updated. We invite you to listen for the diverse divine voices that sing, "You are my beloved." We are one. We are free. We are here. So much has changed in the 100 years since the first flower communion, but our commitment to the values it embodies grows ever stronger as we continue to shape a faith that fiercely and gently calls forth beauty and kinship in easy times and times of heartrending challenge. As we challenge one another as Unitarian Universalists, we work to dismantle our culture of oppressions and exclusion. We learn to embrace, truly embrace, the multiplicity of cultural worldviews and shift our historical center to follow powerful new leadership by those whose voices have been suppressed for far too long. We make in that work the real and the bold vision of Norbert and Maya Capek and the Flower Communion real. Their spirit, courage, and commitment live on in us. May we ever remember our continuity with those who struggled generation after generation for peace and justice and liberty. As we share our flowers in a moment, may we always remember the abiding beauty that calls us together and calls us to ever greater justice and ever greater love. I invite us to come forward to choose from this bouquet a flower that catches our heart and return to our seats. Let us begin with the choir. To be one is to be in covenant with one another, supporting each other in our free and ever-changing community of faith and action. We Are One references our history, affirms our present, and invites us all, quote, siblings and strangers, cousins and neighbors, into a bold future that centers love. These words, a prayer by Norbert Capek. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of men and women and all the longing for people living in human love. In the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the mother and the father and all parents, the brother and sister and all siblings what they are. In the name of sages and the great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, kin, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one spirit, the spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen.